Welcome to the latest installment of Cooking for Moderately Lazy People, or, in this case, Baking for Moderately Lazy People. With the holidays fast approaching, we'll be making mint chocolate crinkle cookies. Let's get started.
We're going to start by putting 4 ounces of chocolate into a double boiler. We'll do this at the beginning because we're going to want to allow the chocolate to cool enough that we don't shock the egg later on. You can use any kind of chocolate here, but the original recipe did call for bittersweet. We'll then put the double boiler on the stove and start boiling the water. Now we'll grab a 1/4 cup of fresh mint leaves and coarsely chop them. We don't need to worry about chopping them too fine because the leaves themselves won't make it into the final product, only the minty flavor. Keep in mind that for this episode, what I actually filmed was a double batch of these cookies, so every ingredient that I list in the video will be doubled on screen. So to get this out of the way now, let's go ahead and talk scaling. This can scale to double because that's literally exactly what I'm doing in the video. The recipe makes about a dozen cookies, so making 2 dozen is easily achievable. After we've chopped the leaves and while the chocolate is still melting, we're going to put 4 tablespoons of butter into a small saucepan. We're then going to toss in our mint leaves. We'll put them on the stove on medium until the butter has melted and the mint becomes fragrant. Once the kitchen starts to smell like mint, we'll give the butter-mint mixture 2 to 3 more minutes. We'll then remove it from heat. Once we remove the butter from heat, we'll allow it to steep for 30 minutes. Now that we've taken the butter off the heat, our chocolate should also have finished melting. We'll remove it from the heat as well and allow it to cool. We'll then pull 1 egg from the refrigerator and allow it to start warming up toward room temperature. Ideally, all of these things will be close to room temperature by the time we move on to the next step. And while we're waiting, we can go ahead and get our dry ingredients together. This will consist of 3/4 of a cup of flour, 1/4 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We'll whisk these until combined and set aside. When the butter reaches the half-hour mark, we're going to grab a sieve and a large bowl. We're then going to pour our butter and leaves into the sieve. We're going to press the leaves into the sieve and try to squeeze out every drop of butter we can get. We'll actually get more than I bet you'd expect unless you've done this before. And while I'm pressing butter and leaves into the sieve, let's talk cost. Here's the obligatory "your mileage may vary" reminder depending on the cost in your area. The chocolate is going to cost about $3 for baking chocolate, maybe less for chips. You can use either. I'm going to use the $3 worst case figure. The mint leaves are free if you grow them in your garden, or about $2 if you buy them at the store. We're only using half a stick of butter, so let's say 50 cents. We're using 1 egg, so let's say about 20 cents. We can estimate the cost of the remaining ingredients at about $1.30 just to make the math easy. That totals up to about $7 per batch. For a double batch, it probably doesn't fully double the cost, but it probably does push it up to around $12, mostly due to the chocolate. Either way, you're looking at somewhere around roughly 50 cents per cookie, give or take a few cents. Once we have our butter strained, we can discard the leaves. We'll then add 1/2 cup of brown sugar into the somewhat disgustingly green-colored butter and begin mixing with a hand mixer. This won't get fully creamed because we don't have quite enough butter for that. Mix it until all the liquid gets absorbed into the sugar, then move on to the next step. Now we'll add in the egg and chocolate and mix until combined. When that's done, we'll add the dry ingredients and fold until fully combined, scraping down the sides of the bowl if needed. This will take a while since we don't have a lot of liquid here. Once we have everything folded in, we'll cover the bowl in plastic wrap and refrigerate it for 1 hour. Once the hour is up, we'll remove the dough from the refrigerator, and at this point, we'll go ahead and preheat the oven to 350 degrees. We're going to roll the dough into roughly 1 rounded tablespoon-sized balls, then try to smooth them out. Because of the consistency, you won't be able to get them perfectly smooth, but try the best you can. When it comes out of the refrigerator, this dough will be the consistency of slightly undercooked brownies. This actually makes it easier to form into balls, but it is a strange consistency for cookie dough. Also, when this comes out of the fridge, the dough will probably be stuck to the bottom of the bowl. The last 2 times I've made this, I had to pry it loose. This might be the least moderately lazy of any food that I've featured because it does require some effort to get it unstuck. Once we have the dough rolled into balls, we'll get the final 2 ingredients, a 1/4 cup of sugar and a 1/2 cup of powdered sugar, each in a separate bowl. We're going to roll each ball through the sugar, then the powdered sugar, then place it on a parchment-lined baking sheet. Now, you can do all the balls first, then roll them in each sugar, or you can do them one at a time and roll them in the sugar. It doesn't really matter, it's personal preference. We'll then bake our dough balls for 10 to 12 minutes. Once done, we'll remove them from the oven and give them a few minutes on the stove. We'll then transfer them to a wire rack to cool. We can top them with fresh mint leaves for decoration if we have spare, but we don't want to use the ones that we steeped. And there we have it, mint chocolate crinkle cookies. If you like the video, or the recipe, or if you just despise mint with every fiber of your being and want to curse me for using it in otherwise perfectly good chocolate cookies, feel free to comment, like, subscribe, or share the video. Also feel free to click the notification bell as I do release regular content. Thanks for watching, and bon appetit.